On November 5th, 2010, Apple announced that they would discontinue their server line, the Xserve, in favor of Mac Pro Server and Mac Mini Server. This is the story of the forgotten Mac. In May of 2002, Apple announced their latest entry into the enterprise world with Xserve, the first rack-mount system designed by Apple to run OS X server. Xserve was never meant for consumers to buy, and as such was priced at $3,000 for the single processor Xserve and $4,000 for the dual processor. These models originally shipped with PowerPC G4 processors that ran at 1 GHz with either 256 MB or 512 MB depending on processor configuration. Apple allowed these systems to be expanded with up to 2 GB of DDR RAM. The original G4 systems were the only Xserve models to allow up to 4 hard drive bays. In 2003, Apple bumped up the speed on the processors to 1.33 GHz, still offered in either single or dual processor models, and added a slot-load optical bay that remained the standard until they were discontinued. At the time, Apple added the G4 cluster node to Xserve lineup. These units were a stripped-down Xserve that were made to run in a computing cluster with a standard Xserve controlling them. These units did not include an optical bay, video card, or Ethernet cards, but allowed for Xserves to be the most powerful computer Apple made at the time, as they were scalable to a particular business's needs. In April, Apple added the Xserve RAID to the lineup with prices ranging from $6,000 to $13,000 depending on configuration. These allowed for large storage volumes to be hosted from Xserve systems. On January 6, 2004, the G5 model of Xserve and the Xserve cluster node were introduced. These systems were mainly designed as a spec bump for the G4 to keep the systems in line with the PowerMac series of workstations. The relatively low cost of the Xserve G5 made them a great choice for supercomputers, with System 10, Virginia Tech's G5 supercomputer cluster, costing $5.2 million, while Earth Simulator, the fastest supercomputer of the time, costing well over $400 million. In 2006, Apple pulled the Xserve G5 from shelves and brought them to Intel processors, specifically the Xeon 5100 series of server CPUs. These processors brought 64-bit support to the Xserve, bringing them in line with offerings from Dell and HP. These systems are the only ones that support OS X versions later than Leopard. The Intel Xserves are distinguishable by the model number of Xserve number, 1. The Intel Xserve brought onboard graphics in the form of an ATI Radeon X1300 for 1,1 and 2,1, and NVIDIA GT120 for the 3,1. These systems became Apple's highest-priced Intel-based Macs and would start at $3,000 for a single processor and $4,000 for a dual processor, but could easily exceed $13,000 with configuration. In 2010, just under 2 years from the release of Xserve 3,1, Apple put the Xserve line on life support, releasing a press statement that stating on January 31st, 2011, they would no longer sell Xserve, but would honor any extended warranties on the line through January 31st, 2014. Xserve 1,1 and 2,1 would see their lives cut short in 2012 with the release of Mountain Lion officially cutting support for the aging systems due to their lack of a 64-bit video card driver. And in 2016, Apple officially pulled the plug on the line, cutting support for 3,1 with the release of macOS Sierra. Apple pushed customers to Mac Pro Server and Mac Mini Server, both of which were more power efficient than the current Xserve of the time. But for many, these were not a server system, lacking support for rack mounting and remote management. These systems were also discontinued in 2013 with the release of Mac Pro 6,1, thus marking the end of the Apple server family. It is worth noting anyone wanting a modern Mac system to use as a server can still opt to purchase macOS Server from the App Store, but the features available in newer versions have been drastically cut out since 2011 with Lion Server. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the first video of the new series about the history of Apple computer lines. I wanted to pick a video that was close to my heart for the first one, and since I personally still use an Xserve 2,1, I thought Xserve would be a good choice for episode 1 of the Forgotten Systems. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And I will see you in the next one.